Hi, I'm Lee Whittier, founder and host, Dog Show Mentor, and we're a little bit late today because we had some technical difficulties. Surprise, surprise. First time, really, in a long time. I have with me Shannon Tupes today from North Carolina and
Virginia.
Virginia. Excuse me. She's moved. And Shannon is a coat expert. I met Shannon when I was asked to judge in South Korea a few years ago, and we've kept in touch. And I've contacted her regarding coat questions and issues over the years. And I said to her, I would love to have you come on the Facebook Live and just talk about coat and coat care and coat condition because it's so important. And here we are. Welcome, Shannon.
Thank you.
Yeah, so I'm coming off Montgomery County weekend, which was a really exciting time. And one of the fun things was watching people um, work the coats and be prepared for the ring. And of course, Terrier coat is essential to breed type, and all the Terriers have different coats. So I asked Shannon, well, maybe we could talk a little bit about that. And we're going to also talk about the curly coats and the drop coats. So please come on. Welcome Shannon in the chat. Tell her where you're from and what your breed is. And she's also here to answer any questions that you might have. So everybody who's out there, please welcome Shannon Tupes. So Shannon, what can you tell us about Terrier coats and keeping them in condition?
Coats, Lee, just like all other coats, still need to have a lot of conditioning and a lot aside from the coats that are hand stripped. A lot of times people think that you wash as much and most of the work is done while you're pulling and putting the coats on and stuff like that. But it's important too to also make sure that those furnishings and stuff like that you keep them clean and keep them in good working condition, because Terrier coats can be very tricky because we want the coats to be nice and harsh, but at the same time, when the coats are going to break easier, and you don't want to do things like brush a dirty coat or a coat that's things like that. So selecting the right kind of products and having an understanding of why you're doing what you're doing is really, really important. Like I said, even with our Terriers, I have a that I used to show years ago, and he had a beautiful jacket, nice and harsh coat, but really difficult to grow because there was so much texture to the coat. It was beautiful conditioning with the coat and babying those furnishings a little bit more than what a Terrier.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So we're really lucky today to have Shannon Tupes with us. She's a coat expert, and Jeannie from Iowa with Irish Wolfhounds is here, and Elizabeth says hi, Shannon. Denmark says welcome from Canada, and Kathleen has Japanese Chin from Snohomish, Washington. Cindy, Spanish Water Dogs, thank you, from Pennsylvania. Michael Nelson, Tibetan Spaniels and Amstaffs, and Irka, Beaver Terriers from New York. So we've got quite a few people here. We've got Erica here. Hi, Shannon, Erica Kellert. So yeah, some of those really hard hair furnishings are so hard that they just break off. And sometimes we have drop coat breeds, for example, where the coat texture is supposed to be hard outer coat and soft undercoat. And the dog, when they're not babied, that coat can break off. So
absolutely.
What kind of products do you use on a drop coat breed?
So drop coats can be tricky because we want to do things like improve the last, and we don't want it breaking and snapping and stuff like that. So when a coat, a bathing regimen is super important. And it's not just about going product or one specific shampoo, but it's literally creating a solution for the problem. So I'm kind of old school when it comes to coat maintenance in terms of it's a quick bath. There is no such thing in my book as a quick bath. I like the dog's bathe. First bath is going to be literally to get rid of the dirt, the debris, the grime, to return to state. And that would be using, any kind of product. I like a product that's actually from a company called Toro Pro Line. It's a deep clean, have an everyday healthy coat shampoo. And I use that as my initial, it's going to return the coat to a neutral state. And what it does is it allows the coat to be able to work as a solution-oriented bath. So on a drop coat, if you're going to silky texture, so you would be looking for something with silk proteins, or if you have that you want to seal the ends of the coat in order to keep the coat more allowed breaking. Again, you would be looking for products that have silk proteins in them. And so when you go into choosing products and choosing your bathing regimen, what are you trying to improve? So on a Yorkie, for instance, I would use my first bath to get the coat back to a neutral state. Then my second bath, I would be looking for some proteins, and that serves the functionality. You could also, want to eat the growth of the coat and, the strength of the coat. So you could use a protein infused in it. And then the third step of the bath is the complete sealing everything into the cuticle. So when you brush and you comb the coat, that acidity, you have the hydration in the coat, and that you're also making sure that the coat is not. And with dealing with drop coats is we never want to brush a coat that's dirty, because that will cause. So never want to brush a coat that's dry. And so one thing that I like to use on the coats and things like that, I use a product called Pure Mist that's from Toro Pro Line. This product to just add a little hydration into the coat, and that way when you're brushing through those, the coat's not going to be snapping and breaking and things like that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so you're when we were in Korea together, you were giving a seminar on grooming, because you're a grooming judge. Do you want to talk a little bit about that? So give a little more depth to the people who are here.
Sure, absolutely. So I started out actually, when I was in college at Virginia Tech, I needed a part-time job, and I got a grooming salon. I thought it would be a great thing. And from there, I did school, and that was a great way to help put myself through college. Circle around, I ended up grooming salon rather than working on Capitol Hill, and that's kind of how I got. My mother also used to raise and show Bichon, or not Bichons, I'm sorry, Yorkies. So I grew up in an after I started grooming, I decided that I wanted to compete. And I competition, which was a Bichon Frises, which is now my breed, and made Groom Team USA, Bichon Groomer, for many years. After I finished 4th in the country on Groom Team USA, and I wanted to give back a lot of the knowledge that I had learned over the years from school, grooming salons, seminars, but from breeders, going to dog shows, talking to professional handlers. I went on the other side of the comb and started judging and doing lectures and seminars, but obviously throughout the world, where I met you when we were in South Korea. And so, like I said, I also do a lot of speaking and seminars and tutorials and pet industry now.
That's fantastic. You have so much experience and so much knowledge, and we've got a few more people here. We've got Nikki from Fort Lauderdale with Cairns. We've got Becky with Border Terriers from Northern California. We have Natalia. Drop coat can be really hard. Sometimes same breed, but still need different products. A lot has to do with location.
Absolutely.
You want to talk about location?
Absolutely. So that's a good point. I used to live in Texas, and regimen for bathing and grooming really depends on the location and the climate that you're in. Me now being on the East Coast, I find, I'm doing a lot more things like that, especially this time of the year when the weather's changing. And a lot of times I notice at dog shows and grooming salons, they always want to skip that conditioning process. And that is such an important part of the bath in order to get the coats maintained properly. Not walking into the ring when going to a dog show, because a lot of times, Lee, what I hear people say is, "Oh, professional groomer, I'm not a professional handler, so I can't play, the game." And people, in my professional opinion, it's not about the pattern necessarily, but conditioning of the dog, not only in terms of physical condition and nutrition and training of the coat, because if you have the coat in good condition, you can do just about anything. And location of where you're located, in the climate, in some parts of the country, ear infections are, much more common because humidity is high. Infections, then you're going to get matting, behind the ears, and it could mess up the whole. And so really taking care of figuring out, if you're in a dry that's more humid, and choosing the correct products. But what I find that seems to be, especially in my breed that we carry a lot more coat, is it's the daily maintenance. I always tell people, even my pet people, if you work on your dog for 5 minutes and brushing it or doing something with it, you can probably work through most smaller breeds. And if you do it every day, but if you do it once a week, it's going to take, maybe 30 or 40 minutes if you go for and longer. So I think it's important for us as pet owners and breeders and to really condition ourselves and get ourselves in the habit of maintaining, making sure that they're not mad stuff.
Yeah. So what you're saying is that maintaining a coat for 5 minutes a day is going to keep you from having to spend a lot more time during the week for a weekly groom, and it's healthier for the coat.
Absolutely.
And no matter what the coat, are you using that misting product, or are you just using that? Like, you wouldn't use that on a terrier coat, right?
I wouldn't use that. I wouldn't use it on a jacket on a terrier coat if you're just, brushing through the legs. Absolutely, because you do still want to. That's not a color terrier people. We don't want. And I had Lakeys, or had Lakeys working with those harsh coats. And I know we never want to bathe them, over condition them, but we always, or at least for me, I always had a tendency to forget about those furnishings, a little bit of TLC, and
Right.
Not only necessarily using conditioner mist on the face fall and on the leg furnishing, and even brush the coat when it's dry. The coat's going to break, and then your furnishings are not going to be what they need. Something like a product like the Pure Mist is wonderful because it does not. It still improves the integrity of the coat texture without making everything super soft, light, and things like that. So you could use a product like Pure Mist on the furnishings and on the.
So we've got a couple questions. Let's address some questions. Sure. Michael wants to know if the Christensen 3-step process is any good for Tibetan Spaniels.
What Christensen 3-step process are you talking about? The 3-step process, or
okay, we'll have, when he answers, we'll come back to that. So Kathy wants to know if you have any tips for the Bernese Mountain Dog. So before we answer, I'll just say, if the questions could be very specific to what kind of problem you're having. Are you having a shedding problem? Are you having a dandruff problem? Are you having baldness? I mean, what kind of problem are you having? So let's just give a general tip for the Bernese Mountain Dog and go on. But if you can, folks, be specific about what you'd like to know. We'd love to help you. That's what we're here for. Okay.
On the Bernese Mountain Dog, one thing I would recommend is using your force dryer, making sure that you all the way down to the skin before you come through with your brushes, in order to make sure that that coat will, gently glide through the skin. Basically, you'll be removing the necessary undercoat and things like that. But make a lot of people in general with that breed, if you put your hands on the dog, they're still ever so slightly, so then that's going to cause the coat to stay a little bit more packed, which will then cause and can't breathe. And then it's also going to make it a little more difficult for the dog to maintain. So being able to get a comb completely through, and usually I would recommend like a 10-inch wide, be able to glide through that coat and all of that undercoat as well, in order to make sure that the dog maintain coat in good condition.
Okay, so for the Bernese Mountain Dog type of coat and those double coats, make sure you force dry them down to the skin, and make sure you can get a comb through the coat after you do that, so that everything, the skin can breathe and everything can lie properly.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And before you use a comb, you want to make sure you go through with a slicker.
With the slicker.
There to basically separate and divide the coat, and then the comb is the process. You wouldn't want to go in right with a comb. You would want to use a slicker brush.
Use the slicker and the force dryer, slicker, and comb. Yeah. Okay, good. Let's see. Let me get back to my questions here. Dog coat can be really hard, blah, blah, blah. Christensen, tips for burners. And a chow, the same thing? Would you use the force dryer on a chow?
I would, yes, absolutely. Okay, all the way down to the.
Okay, so
fluff dryer, but I would take off the initial with using a force dryer first.
Okay, yeah.
Because you're gonna there for hours.
Yes, I know, and I've learned how to use a force dryer on my Tibetans just to get that initial amount of water out of the coat before you start really drying and shaping. Candy says, absolutely, do you have any ideas for Doberman? So I used to have Rottweilers, and my biggest problem was dandruff. And so I'd give my dogs a weekly bath and then condition, and I'd still have dandruff. What do we do about dandruff?
So a lot of that could also would play a role into, I would be looking at the diet, and not just the what the products that you're using. Of course, you do nutrition. I would add some omegas to the diet, but then in terms of for using on a Doberman or a Rottweiler, and I used to have Rotties as well. So I would do the same 3-step process. So my first dirt, the debris and the dander. So if you're having a lot of dander, mine is more than likely it's dry skin. So rather than using probably choose something like a healthy coat shampoo. And again, you can get that on White Dog. That's a Toro Pro line product. And then I would come back with my second bath, and I shampoo or even a nourishing bath, and then come back in with the conditioner. But one trick, and even now if I'm working with short coated breeds, sometimes we don't get all of the product that we have. And so one trick that I like to do is when I'm bathing a dog, even when the product is out and I don't see any bubbles, I turn my water temperature down just a tiny bit. So it's not cooler than it would normally be. And I do a final rinse using cool water on the dog. They wouldn't enjoy that, as I wouldn't enjoy that either. But just cool your water temperature down, allow any products that's still on the coat to completely rinse out. And it will also, and that should also help drastically with having any of that dander on the coat.
What a great tip. That's so cool.
You want to be able
water.
to feel,
say that again.
Yeah, you want to be able to feel the coat. You want to be able to I always tell people squeak when you're done bathing. So if you were to grab and on a dog, and it's hard because the hair is jacket, but you want to be able to take your fingers on a wet coat and pull down, and you can't hear it, but you're going to feel the cleanliness and the squeakiness. If the coat feels kind of like it just was, like you have conditioner or something in there, you want to continue rinsing the water temperature down, and that will force the product out of the coat, and then you have all the product out of the coat, which will solve the dander issue.
That's a great
because
tip.
if you leave any kind of shampoo in the coat accidentally, it's going to cause the coat to dry out.
Yeah, I remember one of my co-owners. I was getting Rottweiler ready for the ring, and she had bathed her dog the day before, and she was a little novice, and there was soap left in the coat that I could feel, and it created sort of a it looked dry. It didn't have a sheen to it on the outer coat, and but every coat should, when we're in the ring as judges, I want to feel the harshness on a Rottweiler coat. That should be a hard outer coat. And people put so much product in the coat that you could feel it. You can't see it, but you can feel it. It's sleek. And a Rottweiler coat should not be sleek, but it should have some shine to it, if just a little bit. So let's see what else we've got here.
Comment on product that I think would be beneficial. I always, when I tell people, we have all kinds of product that's out there now in the pet industry for, any kind of mousses and chalks. I mean, just all kinds of stuff. And it's a place for it. But just remember, when you put that product in, it's very important that because if you leave that product designed to do a job temporarily and walks in the ring, you want it to look the best that it absolutely can, but rinsed out. So if you're putting and loading the coats up with a lot of product when you're going into the ring off that night, you need to go home and bathe that product out in order to keep the skin and coat in good, healthy when it goes into the ring.
So for those terrier people that put cholesterol and sprays in the furnishings, they need to take that out so the skin could be healthy. Yeah.
And in my breed, we have a lot of hairspray, and and it needs to be completely washed out. Gotten to where I try to build the coat naturally by selecting product and the coat, and not conditioning, meaning just putting conditioner on it, but the regular maintenance and the combing and that kind of stuff in order to have it build naturally, so I don't have to use it. Because let's face it, after a long day of showing dogs, the last thing I want to do is go home and get up and put it in again. So I don't want to say it. You do want to be just cautious that if you put product in the coat, you really that day washed out and put the dog back into maintenance for the next show.
So we have several several more questions, and I think we're going to go ahead and answer them. We're going overtime today, but we started late. So someone asked a question. Erica said, I have Bichons too. I always struggle with tear staining and mouth staining. What do you recommend?
I could talk about tear staining for a month. So, let me just preface it with this. I believe that, and I'm a firm believer the dogs need to be dogs. So even though Bichons and they run in the yard, which they are right now, I probably will regret not being in the yard. With probably be kind of muddy when I open up the door and let them come back in for a little while. But it's a lot, and taking care of tear. There's a lot of things that you can do and to get rid of the stains. I'm not a big fan of bleach. Bleach is a much damage to the coat, and it's so close to the eyes. Even with me, a professional in the grooming industry for over 30 years, and showing dogs my entire life, I bleach on a dog. So I use, again, that same mist that I was talking about, Toro.
And what is the name of that? Maybe we can put it in the chat.
Absolutely. Toro is the brand, Toro Pro line, and it's TAUR. And you can get all of this on whitedogclubusa.com. But anyway, and you just mist that you can mist that around the face area. And it has some, any kind of, tearing is caused usually from bacteria. So that's going to help dry that area out. And then I come back with a product called, that's like magic in a jar. You just put that on. It's a paste. It's like a clay, and dab it right onto that area in the eye and let it dry. And then you can take your slicker brush and ray it to kind of separate and divide the coat. And I use that for maintenance mode. That's lovely because you want to stop the tearing, which is what the Pure Mist will help do, to tackle the stains that you already have on the coat. And that the red stain area, you can put it around the facial, around the eyes. Of course, be careful not to get it in the eyes. But, the other thing is a dog food from Nature's Protection, specifically for white dogs, and that also helps minimize the tearing. And they have that about a year ago. Again, you can purchase that on whitedogclubusa.com. So I started feeding that about a year ago, and they have a starter food, a junior food, and an adult food. My pregnant mother's on that food, and we take it all the way through weaning puppies to 12 months, and then the adult is over 12 months. And so I find that great combination. Also, another thing, genetics does play a factor in my opinion. Some dogs tear more than others. It's not that you're not doing your due diligence in your work that is tearing. That's something that you need to tackle every day. And again, it's one of those things, if you put the dog up and take care of that every day, rather than only working on it one. And if you have a dog that's tearing out of the blue for no reason, who normally doesn't, might run their ears and see, because more than likely they probably have some dirty ears going on. Maybe needs the veterinarian, your veterinarian, to take a look at. And if it's nothing in the ears, also because tearing can also be triggered from having a dirty mouth. And so it's to control tearing. You don't want to just treat the eyes. You still have to keep the ears clean on a regular basis. You have to keep, brushing their teeth, overall hygiene, in order to keep those white faces white. And even that it might not be white, they have red on their, that's the coat, that's the gold, but as well. All
right. Well, that's a start, even though you could talk about that for hours. Yeah. So Natalia says that Beaver Terriers are required to have proper coat wrapping to keep their coat
Yep.
long.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think about wrapping? Do you have a special way to wrap coats that minimizes any breakage?
I grew up in Yorkshire Terrier, so I think I learned how to wrap a coat when I probably was about 7 because of my mother. And Yorkies, same way. They do, in order to get the coat down to the ground and keep it healthy, wrapping is definitely an option. And you have to do it every day. They have, back in the day when I was involved in Yorkies, and I still, they have the jackets, the wrapping jackets that they wear, and they have the little booties and stuff like that you can. Was into Yorkies. My dogs did not wear the jackets or the boots, but I would wrap some of them. But it's down to making sure that when you take the wraps out, that you're misting the coat so the coat's not, so it doesn't break. I use with my guys. There's a and again, again, they make a product called Magic Coat Oil. You can put a little bit of that coat of the coat and wrap the coat. You can brush it through with and if you're using oil, I always recommend be careful not to get the oil directly onto the skin. Not that it would do a lot of damage, but you want to make sure that you keep that oil off because you don't want to dry out the skin. The skin needs to be able to breathe. And but wrapping the coat every single day, taking the coat out of wraps, misting the coat to make that's dry. Having you're putting a little bit of coat oil on it is another option. If you want a coat, you don't need to mist the coat because the coat is not going to be dry because of the oil. But remember, like that, a little tiny bit goes a very long way.
Yeah. So, and she also asks, what product would you recommend right before the ring that will bring shine to the single drop coat without greasy look and feeling? What product is best for static? Oh boy, I've dealt with some static before.
So I've talked about this all day, and it's one of those products that you can use on everything, and it's that Pure Mist maintaining static. Again, what I do is if the dog is standing on the table, I'll stand directly and I will mist the product up in the air so it just gradually falls down. And take your brush and brush through the coat. If you're using a drop coat, during that time bristle brush, do that. Some people will use a slicker brush, others will use it with a drop coat. I'm pulling out that Mason Pearson brush and I'm going to run that right through the coat, go into the ring because it will hold everything in place, but the Pure Mist will get rid and have the coat lay beautifully, and in the ring you go. And so you have to use a product that's specifically for shine. If you have, and I know that seems a little odd because a lot of times we're always looking for those shine products, and sometimes it gets too greasy and we're having a heart attack as we're going in the ring because it looks like they stepped in oil. Go back to that regular coat maintenance on the dogs. And if you're doing your regular coat maintenance, like I would be using hydrating shampoo and nourishing shampoo, absolutely conditioning it, something like just a small spritz of the Pure Mist over right into the coat and will give a beautiful finish. It'll also help hold your part in place. So when they shave the hair on the part going all over the place.
Yeah, we all of us who have parted breeds need that product.
Absolutely.
So I'm just going to take 2 more questions, but I wanted to say Nikki Higgins with the Cairns from Florida says feeding venison for tearing.
Mm-hmm. I feed my protein choice, and again, I'm not just based on over 30 years of experience, in dogs in general, probably closer to 40 now, but I like to use the protein and any kind of fish protein. I use a white fish and I use salmon as my base protein. I mean, everything it goes into really when you're looking at dogs and trying to keep everything situated and in the right, so they're not in a good condition. You want to always consider your protein source. And so my go-to, and again, this is just personal preference, is the fish. And so I either will do whitefish or salmon, a lot more omegas and stuff like that in it as well.
Yeah, and the omegas, right? Okay. And Michael Nelson says chalk. All right. Well, I think that although, let's say dryer, what dryer would you recommend for the single coated drop coat breed? Like a beaver.
Right. So now there's a new, and this is a new dryer using, and it's a lovely dryer, and I've only been using it, and so far I love it. And again, it's from Toro, and you can find that it's a force dryer, and then it has this that's on a stand, and then nozzle out, and it becomes a fluff dryer, which I think is brilliant.
Nice.
I can't wait yet, but it is going in my RV because I'll be in Priceville in a couple weeks. And so,
awesome.
But that's a great dryer. And if you're going to be at the Harvest Moon Cluster next week, we're there working and answering in White Dog Club USA's booth. So,
that's great. So this is great timing.
Yep.
Shannon, Natalia says Toro Elixir #2 is magic for dandruff.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And it's also good for alopecia.
And Mike says, with long coat Chihuahua coats, should I towel dry or use a dryer?
I personally use both. You can even use one of those where you just put it around the dog and really just kind of allow all of that water to come into the towel. When I'm in circular motion, like you would if you were, towel drying your own hair, I do that because I want the coats to lay the proper way with the grain of the coat, excessive matting.
Okay, great. Thank you. And one more. Marie says, my 18-month-old English Springer Spaniel has a small dry patch right above her tail. I'm hearing hormones. It's rough and lighter than the rest of her coat. Should I condition, ? Card out, or leave and wait and watch?
There was somebody, I think Natalia mentioned Toro Elixir #2, 4 is something you could put on that full strength. And I would use that. See if that gets rid of that patch. That would be something that I would definitely try that out. I wouldn't want to, I want to keep the skin nice and calm right now. And #4, and which is something that you can use full strength directly.
So we're going to now go into the portion where I tell you that Shannon hasn't given me any Toro shampoo, and I'm not getting any kickbacks from promoting Toro products. We're here to help you, and Shannon is someone I know who can help you. And please get in touch with her at Groom Team USA booth and at Harvest Moon Cluster next week. Please check out the application for Mastery. You get a 45-minute secret weapon session, and with 15 minutes to find out if Mastery is right for you. Let's see if it's a good fit. It's a year-long program where we dive deeply into all things dog show and dogs. We've had amazing speakers. We have quarterly speakers in the Mastery program, and discounts for people who are members, but not in Mastery. So whether you're interested in the premium month-to-month program, or whether you're possibly just interested in sitting back and being part of a Facebook group, a good one, albeit, think about what it would be like to actually be a dog show member. If you're an owner handler, you should be a member. It's fantastic. Okay. Tomorrow, I'm going to have a pop-up with Megan Parati-Ticci. And we're going to just pop up sometime tomorrow. So stay tuned. We're excited to get to chat together. And we're going to chat about all things Dog Show Mentor. So I hope to see you there. And thank you, Shannon. Thanks for bearing with the technical difficulties. If you had any questions, if she cut out during this time and you couldn't totally understand, go to Taro Proline, TAURO, proline.com. And is there a special link that they should use, Shannon, that has your name on it?
You can do the whitedogclubusa.com, and if you put it is a code, it's ST20, you'll get a discount, but I don't know what that discount is. If you ever have
discounts,
yeah, save money.
Nice.
That's always a good thing. Any kind of coat care or specific breed, feel free to reach out to me on Facebook under Shannon Tupes. I'm more than happy to help anybody that I can, or just give you my opinion on a type half. And thank you so much, Lee.
Yeah, we are so grateful for all the wonderful tips. We've got a few links here in the chat, so take advantage of that. And we'll see you tomorrow or possibly next week. And if you're not, get on our mailing list so you can find out what the events are every week with Dog Show Mentor. Thanks for being here. Thanks, Shannon. It's nice to see you. And bye for now. See you in the winner's circle. Mark says, thank you, Shannon and Lee, for all the great advice and information. Dog Show Mentor, use code ST. That's S as in Shannon, T as in Tupes, 20 for discount. Yay. And Natalia has kindly posted the whitedogclubusa.com. That's wonderful. We're so happy you were here. Thanks, everybody, for contributing and asking questions. And